One of the industries that a lot of people are talking about is the LPG space. A lot of people actually went out to fill up their tanks before the lockdown, and I was wondering, are they also going to go home? How are we going to cook? We have Gabriel Kumi. He's the vice chairman of the LPG Marketers Association of Ghana. He's going to help us appreciate exactly what's going on in that space, pricing, all the concerns you may have. Just send them our way and we'll ask him while he's here. So don't forget to use the hashtag BreakfastDaily and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832 for us to get your questions. And if you're outside Ghana, the country code is +233.
Yeah. So before we talk to Gabriel, just remember, let's remind viewers that we at Citi we are very, very interested in helping the fight against COVID-19. And one of the things we are doing now is to go out into the communities and in every language that we can possibly, muster up, we're campaigning and helping people to understand the importance of social distancing, the importance of hygiene, the importance of remembering that it takes one of us to make a difference, and each of us can make a difference. So there's a campaign we're doing at Citi TV. You can see it right there.
That's the buses that you're seeing there. And the reason why we're doing this is because we realize that even though on the top we're all discussing it on radio, on TV, people in our communities are not really understanding and appreciating the magnitude of it. So we are doing a bottom-up approach, a grassroots approach, coming into the communities to talk to you in languages that you understand. So there you have it, one of the vans that we'll be using to communicate the impact of coronavirus. So I'm going to read briefly on
so let me just quickly read that for you. It says here, Ghanaian television channel Citi TV will from Thursday, 9th April 2020, kickstart a sensitization campaign on the coronavirus pandemic in specific markets and communities in Accra to keep citizens more informed to protect themselves and the masses from the disease. The station has thus dedicated 2 of its pickup vehicles solely branded for the exercise. Managing Director of Citi FM and Citi TV, Samuel Atam-Mensah, says, as a media house whose topmost objective is to inform and educate, there is the need to carry out that mandate directly into the communities when the need arises. He says the pandemic, which poses a threat to everyone, cannot be left to government alone. Hence, the decision by Citi TV to support the public education campaign. The Citi TV COVID-19 sensitization campaign is thus expected to complement the efforts of the Information Ministry, the Information Services Department, and the National Commission for Civic Education. All right, so this is basically what we're going to do.
Yes, so you're going to be seeing us in your communities. So he says, although government is tackling the situation from all angles through several measures, the sensitization is said to be inadequate. Concerns are that some people are limited in their understanding of the health and safety protocols, the seriousness of the situation, and the importance of complying to government's directives, especially in the areas that have partial lockdown. The perceived misunderstanding has largely been blamed for the instance where some people have flouted the social distancing protocol and the partial lockdown directives. For instance, the non-compliance to the social distancing directives in the market by traders has forced some municipal, metropolitan, and district assemblies to shut down markets in some of the lockdown areas, although they're exempted from the lockdown because they deal in food, which is essential. The COVID-19 cases stands at 313, with the death toll moving from 5 to 6 as at yesterday, Wednesday, April 8th, 2020, while recoveries stand at 3. Although Ghana's fatality rate is generally low, there are concerns that the numbers could increase as government carries out some sort of mass surveillance, some sort of mass testing and surveillance within the communities.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, you're going to be seeing our vans very soon. This morning, we've already set off, and you're going to be hearing us and seeing us in your communities and market spaces. And so take note and maybe take a picture when you see the pickup and send it to us on WhatsApp. Yeah.
But it's really important, right? Because, and especially if you're watching us in instance all the time, and you have people in your communities who may not really understand what's going on, it's an opportunity for you to educate them, right? So we are doing the grassroots approach. We're coming into the communities. But if you know someone who may not still understand what's going on, this is the time for you to let them know the magnitude of the virus we're dealing with and the importance of staying on top of things and continuing on with the preventive measures to ensure that we don't have to cure it. We're at least focusing on ensuring we tame that community spread.
Absolutely. Well, like you said, we have been joined by Gabriel Kumi. Yes, and good morning, Gabriel. How are you doing?
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. All right, so...
Yes, tell us a bit about just the LPG industry. What services do you guys provide and how business is doing in this coronavirus times?
Basically, I'm coming from the LPG Marketing Companies Association of Ghana. We are in charge of distribution of LPG and retail of LPG across the country. So if you see all the LPG outlets in the country are under us. We build these stations. And then together we're working in close collaboration with MPA and the bulk oil distribution companies. We supply LPG and make sure that LPG gets into your home. Business, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately for us, we are part of the essential services providers. So we have been in business. Our outlets are opened. Before the lockdown, there was a mad rush for LPG, which was quite unfortunate.
Why do you describe it as unfortunate? Business must have been good.
No. We are not looking at our interests. We are looking at safety of general Ghanaian. I think communication should have gone out before the lockdown that the LPG stations will be operating. But unfortunately, you know, we are not in normal times yet. So that communication couldn't go out. So people thought LPG stations are going to be closed down, so there was a need for them to rush to stock up. Even though we tried to, when we realized that on Saturday after the lockdown, when we saw the crowds and the mass nap of our people we issued a press release appealing to people to be calm because we are going to operate during the lockdown. After that, we were able to gradually get the crowd out. Because in fact, I went to one of our stations, and when I saw the crowd, I said, so if just one person should carry this virus and go into this crowd, I mean, there are thousands of people who are going to take the virus home, and we thought that was unfortunate. But we've rectified the situation, and now it's very normal when you go to the airport outlets.
How would you describe business during this lockdown period? We're already a week and a half into the lockdown.
Yes. It's been very slow, but it's expected. I mean, we are all under lockdown. After, you know, there was a mad rush for the product. So after we had gotten the communication out that we'll be working, sales really went down. But we feel that is in order because we don't want to sacrifice Ghanaians for our business interest.
Considering the situation we find ourselves in, there may be an extension of the lockdown. If it happens, what do you perceive to be some of your challenges ahead?
I think we should all relax. MPA and the board distribution companies are working very hard to make sure that there is enough supply of LPG in the country. We have more than enough stock to last for everybody. We know this is the time we need the LPG at home. Children are home now. Cooking is going on 3-4 times a day. So this is the time we need a lot of LPG at home. But there are more than enough measures in place to ensure that the product is not in short supply during the lockdown. Even if this lockdown is to extend to even 1 month or 2 months, we are still confident that we will be able to serve the Ghanaian with LPG at home.
So with the demand for LPGs where people are home, a lot of Ghanaians were surprised that the prices had gone up a little bit. So we'll take a look at a report by our colleague Bibiose on the topic we're discussing, pricing and LPG, and then we'll continue the conversation with Kumi.
Good.
According to data from the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, liquefied petroleum gas LPG was selling for as low as 4 cedis 92 pesos per kilogram in September last year, but is now selling at around 5 cedis 90 pesos per kilogram. COPEC's Executive Director, Duncan Amwa, tells Citi News the gradual increases in the price of the commodity over the past 5 months is becoming a disincentive to people looking at going into the LPG business as well as household consumers.
If you speak to consumers, there's a lot of complaint. And we are also mindful of the fact that the government has an LPG promotion policy, which at present is around 20-25%, and we were looking for a penetration of some 50%. What that means is a cleaner environment, because people would switch from the alternate fuel sources to LPG. Unfortunately, as we speak, LPG is a lot more expensive than your regular petrol and diesel, and we think that it is becoming a disincentive for people who ordinarily would have wanted to use LPG or switch from the dirty fuel sources to LPG. And we think that the government must take a second look at, 1, the price build, 2, the level of taxes on there, 3, the sort of prices that Atuabo particularly is putting on the market. If Atuabo prices were lower, it would in a way even force the international imports to force the price to be a bit more competitive. But as it stands, Atuabo is either pricing at par or sometimes higher than what the local, the international imports are pricing. And we think that these are factors contributing to the sort of prices you are seeing. LPG is more than 6 Ghana cedis a kilogram today, whereas your petrol is around 5 cedi 40. That clearly is worrying, and we think the government should take a second look at it.
The CEO of Anaset Company Limited, an LPG retailing company in Accra, Seth Naname, says if the increases are not curtailed, it can hurt the retailers as well as consumers.
Certainly, we can say this is good for the business because our business is volume driven. We sell in volumes. But now our sales have also reduced drastically. From the stations, this what I'm telling you, from the stations, with the consumers, they are complaining, because of the price hike. Most people who comes to the station, they buy what they can afford.
Some Ghanaians who rely on LPG for both domestic and commercial purposes say a reduction in the price of the product will help them in many ways.
First it was 74, now it's 84. The difference is too much.
So how is it affecting your top up?
They have to reduce it for us more. Okay. At first it's better than charcoal, but now all is the same.
It's too much. They have to consider us. The money I was bringing it to buy this thing, it was not like it didn't reach like that.
Yeah, so we've gone from 74 to 84 at a time where Ghanaians need LPG the most, because a lot of us are at home with the kids and we're cooking. So, Gabriel, why? What's going on?
Consider the people small.
Yes, let me take this opportunity to commend our president for some of the bold initiatives he's taken to ensure that basic necessities like water, like LPG, are expected to come down. But unfortunately, LPG was not able to come down. In fact, a margin, an additional tax has been added to the price of LPG last week. We were expecting our regulator to follow the footsteps of His Excellency the President, who appointed them to bring prices of LPG down. At worst, just leave it as it is, so that this is not a time for us to look for money. When the president is out there giving out freebies, we are sitting at Jolu Junction, at the office at Jolu Junction, and are increasing prices of LPG. We feel that is so unfortunate. You see, if I'm to take you a little bit back, for the past 2 years, the LPG Marketing Companies Association of Ghana have been at the forefront, knocking on the doors of government to remove all the existing taxes on LPG. We believe LPG must be made tax-free. If you look at our West Africa sub-region, all the countries around us, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Nigeria, Mali, all these countries are indeed subsidizing LPG. They are subsidizing. But in Ghana, we used to subsidize LPG at the introductory stage in the 80s and the 90s. We got to a point, consumption of LPG started growing. Government felt the subsidy was becoming too much. So government took itself off the subsidy. It removed all the subsidies, and we went full cost recovery. We did that till about 2014, 2015, when crude oil prices dropped so low to about $30, $32 per barrel. We feel that was the time for us to have really pushed up the consumption of LPG. But unfortunately, our government at the time took advantage of the low crude oil price, heaped a lot of taxes on the product. Over the time, what has happened is that the prices has remained very constant on the product, while crude oil price keep moving up. And this shoots up the pump price to the height that the ordinary Ghanaian has not been able to afford.
Connect the two for us, the crude oil and the pump. What?
The LPG is purely imported.
Okay.
So the crude oil price, the price on the international market of crude oil is pegged with the price of LPG. Okay. So the higher crude oil price goes, the higher the price of the pump price of LPG also becomes. Okay. So once you have a constant tax on it, and crude oil price pushing up,
okay,
it means your pump price will obviously and automatically push up.
Okay.
If you look at the statistics of consumption of LPG in Ghana, if you look at 2006 to 2015, when there was no tax on LPG, consumption of LPG in Ghana was growing at an average rate of 16.16% per annum. But if you fast forward it, after the taxes had been introduced in 2015, from 2015 to present, LPG consumption in Ghana has been relatively very stagnant. And now our projection is that if we don't do anything drastic about the price of LPG, going forward, LPG consumption in Ghana will start declining. And we know that the dire consequences that will have on us as a nation.
I'm just curious about something, not to break your train of thought, but what do you think is influencing this? Got to be the alternative, because electricity is also expensive.
We'll go back to charcoal, like the woman was
What are
saying.
people doing?
They are going back to charcoal.
Wow.
People are going back to charcoal. In fact, if you go to our stations, formerly we used to have some chop bar and restaurant operators that comes in with this huge...
Yes, the big cylinders.
Big cylinders, come and fill them, 10 of them, 15 of them, fill them and take them to their chop bars and to their restaurants to work with. Now they come there with 2, 3. When you ask them, they say, no, the thing is too expensive. They are going to buy charcoal and firewood to supplement it. And that is what is happening currently. You know, as an association, government has set itself an objective to increase consumption and penetration of LPG from 25% currently to 50% by the year 2030. We feel that is a very laudable objective, but we believe that government cannot eat its cake and have it. LPG is a product with an elastic demand. What that simply means is that the only way you can engender consumption, the only way you can increase consumption is to bring down prices. So you can attract a lot of people into the consumption. So your own objective of increasing access and penetration to 50% by the year 2030 could be achieved. But we see government acting contrary to its own objective. How can you have such an laudable objective and at the same time you keep increasing the price of the product through taxation? In fact, for the past 2 years, we have been calling, as I did indicate, for government to remove the existing taxes. So that is why we are so shocked and surprised that just last week, an additional tax has been added to the price.
Which one was that?
That is the LPG cylinder recovery levy of 13.5 pesos per kilo of LPG. And this has shot the price of LPG. We believe this is the time that we rather need to reduce the price of the product so we can make it affordable and accessible to every Ghanaian. If you look on the price build-up of LPG, there is 5 peso per kilo of LPG margin that consumers have been paying for the past 20 years. 5 cedis per kilo. We have been paying that for the past 20 years. And currently, that 5 cedi per kilo brings in about 1.2 million Ghana cedis a month.
Wow.
1.2 million cedis a month.
1.2 million
Ghana
cedis a month.
Yes. We don't know what that money is being used for. We have no idea. I'm sure when we go into that fund, we should be able to get enough revenue to do whatever government wants to do, so that we don't burden the consumer further with more margins and more taxes. We believe the Ghanaian consumer is being choked with taxes on LPG. Globally, LPG consumption is on the rise. LPG is a fuel of choice now. LPG consumption is growing globally between 8 to 10%. But in Ghana, we are stagnant because we've heaped a lot of taxes on the product and we are not able to grow consumption. And as I did indicate, if we don't do anything drastic about the price of LPG, consumption will start declining going forward. And our regulator, we issued, after the introduction of the new tax, we issued a press release calling on our regulator to immediately remove those taxes from LPG. Our regulator issued a defense, and the defense was that this window, last window, for instance, the price of LPG per kilo was about 5 cedis per kilo. And this window, we should have been buying LPG at about 4 cedis per kilo. But because of the tax they have introduced, the price is not going to go down. It's still going to stay at 5 cedis. The defense is that even after the introduction of that margin, price is not going up. So they have not increased price. And we believe, I explained this to my 11-year-old boy, and he asked me, Dad, so if they take off what they have put on it, would the price still be at 5 cedis, or it will go for 4 cedis? I said it will be for 4 cedis. Then the boy started laughing. It's a very they are regulators, so I don't want to use certain words. But that excuse
what more should we all do? Because this is an essential product that we need, especially since we are home with our families, and we can't go back to using charcoal because it's not good for our health. So for the viewers who are watching in the entire country, what can we do to raise more awareness to this price hike?
Yeah, that is what we are doing, but our association is prepared to do anything and everything to ensure that this levy does not stay. We are prepared to do anything and everything possible within the legal framework of our country to ensure that this levy goes off. In fact, our membership are so angry. Had it not been the fact that we are facing these difficult times, I don't know what would have happened.
Are you going to make any demands from government to perhaps provide some subsidies like we have with water?
In fact, that should have been the case. We were expecting our regulator to say, okay, our president is giving us free water. Let's look into the LPG promotion fund that consumers have been paying for the past 20 years. Let's see if there is some money there. Let's use that money to subsidize the product. So we bring in line with the president's moves and the president's initiative, so that we bring the price of the product down. But rather, in Chi, we say, you didn't do that. You didn't think about subsidizing the product to make life comfortable for the ordinary Ghanaian. You rather go to the extent of adding a tax on the product at this critical, this difficult time that we are all finding ourselves. We are going to do anything to get that thing removed. Since last week, we have been appealing to our regulator to ensure that this thing is taken off. It's still there. Yesterday, I learned they've been taken to court by COPEC and one other organization.
This is a regulator?
Yes, the regulator has been taken to court to remove this. Because one, according to the rates I read, this does not go through Parliament. This is more or less a tax. You can give it a different name, you can use jargon to describe whatever it is. But this is a tax. Ghanaians, ordinary Ghanaians, my mother in the village, my mother in Sunyani Tanosu, the village, my illiterate mother is going to pay for this. She's going to pay this.
Your final thoughts as we round up.
Finally, as I did indicate, we are not even looking at the lawsuit. That can travel on its own. If that supports our argument, fine. Let the chief force where they may. But we are sounding a caution to our regulator that we are demanding an immediate withdrawal of this levy from the price build-up of LPG. And if they don't do it, and the time comes and we are taking any actions, we expect the whole country, the consumer, to support us. We don't expect people to say that because of our personal interest, because of this, because of that, we are going on strike. We are prepared to do anything within the law to get this thing off.
All right.
Because we have been fighting for even the existing ones to be removed. So we can never reconcile ourselves with an introduction of a new tax.
Thank you very much, Gabriel Kumi, for the good work that you guys are doing. He's a vice chairman of the LPG Marketers Association of Ghana.